it's the thing I hear words are both resistance and
Yes.
a resurgence of identity,
Yes.
all embedded in this notion of land.
Yes. Well, there's a number of ways in which that conversation could go. I think one of the things that I find most significant is the relationship between land and healing in indigenous thought. So I've been in conversations with a number of indigenous leaders over the past few years in which the Western definitions of health and well-being and healing are challenged specifically on the relationship to the land, so that indigenous people who have been lifted out of their relationship to the land and set in a Western therapeutic system continue to show problems afterwards. And I hear elders saying this is fundamentally about that primal and primary relationship to the land, which identifies indigenous people and heals indigenous people. So there is no healing apart from the land, they would say. I've heard that said in a number of contexts. So what does that mean? It means it means at an attitudinal level. It means that a heightened awareness, a growing awareness, a moral and spiritual commitment to that fundamental relationship to the land on the part of indigenous people, individually and collectively. But it also means going out on the land. So we're finding that more and more schools are trying to integrate going out on the land to their educational offerings and seeing that as a significant critical aspect of who they are. Some First Nations are encouraging their people to engage with the land, to be a part of the land. This is seen as essential to maintaining the strength and sovereignty of indigenous people relative to the ongoing onslaught of Western culture, its ideas, and its structures.
So there's something going on in your descriptions that I wonder whether you'd want to make explicit, which is that we're talking about a particular kind of relationship to the land, to play.
Yes.
Implicit in that, if I'm hearing you right, is that in your narrative, land is not inert, it's not matter, it's not resource. Somehow it's alive.
Yes.
Somehow it is, how would I say it? It is a being that you have to be in relationship with. Am I hearing that correctly?
That's absolutely correct. There is, I'm not sure exactly how to characterize it, but there is a, I guess you would say, a personalism in the way in which indigenous people relate to the land. It is, it has identity and personality, and different ecospheres, if you will, different lands have different personalities and different relationship to the people around it. It's not uniform. It's not. It's the relationship to locality is the defining element in terms of indigenous identity and well-being, according to the elders that I've talked to about it.
So, I mean, from a Christian perspective, theologically, it is saying that creation is alive.
Yes.
Creation, God is as much, God's spirit is as much present and infused and working in and through land as God's spirit is present and infused amongst us as human beings, and
Yes.
that this is a deep relational engagement. I think that's what I'm hearing you
Yes.
describing.
I think very much so, and I would also see it as a recovery of what I see implicit in Scripture in terms of the multifaceted relationship between human beings and creation. So it seems to me that much of Christian thought has been so influenced by Western concepts of land that are, in terms of legal understanding, and the impact of a kind of mechanistic, materialistic view of the land through the lens of a particular understanding of land that that has diminished and distorted a Christian understanding of what land is, and what and the significance, the moral and spiritual significance of our relationship to that land around us. So to me, indigenous people, and I think Pope Francis points to this in Laudato Si, his encyclical on the environment, helps us to recover and uncover a kind of implicit environmentalism in the Christian tradition, and at the very least, whatever that may be, at the very least, I think it points to the distorting limitations of a Western concept of land. It seems to me that the West itself is finding it impossible to enter into a flourishing of life, communal and individual, under the within the reduced limits of what land means in a Western framework. So it seems to me that the West's view of land, which solves a particular set of legal and economic problems, creates a huge number of problems in that it reduces that relationship to a point where it's not morally, physically, or spiritually sustainable. And I think that it's demonstrated that it's created a capacity to destroy the earth in its inability to articulate the full dimensions of what it means to be a human being on the land, in the land.